Today I'm going to compare the Sigma and Canon 70-200 2.8 lenses. Fast zooms. If you're serious about photography or videography and you're at the point where you want to invest some real money, these kind of become a necessity. I've been using both of these lenses side by side for the past 5 or 6 years, so I feel like I'm at a point where I can offer some pretty good insight into their durability, their use, and their quality. Both lenses retail for roughly $1,350, and the biggest feature difference between them is that the Sigma has optical image stabilization, whereas the Canon does not, and that's really important, so remember it because I'm going to come back to that in a minute. I think many people's first impulse when they hear of spending hundreds or even thousands of dollars on a single lens is that that is way too much money, but I think it's important to remember that if you're serious about photography or videography, that your equipment is really crucial. It's also really key to remember that your lenses often outlive your camera. So whereas you might change your camera body every few years, if you buy a good lens, it can last virtually an entire lifetime. So with that in mind, let's talk about the design and durability of these lenses. Each lens comes with its own protective case, the Sigma and the Canon. For lenses of this size and weight, having a protective case is a really handy, helpful, and important thing. These really do help protect your investment a lot. And each lens also comes with a lens hood. The Canon lens is Canon's signature white lens. You've probably seen these on the sidelines of sporting games and at weddings for many, many years. This lens is basically all metal except for the rubber rings for the zoom and the focus. Even the switches are metal. This lens could stop a tank. It's built to last. It's built like a brick. It's weather resistant. I have no qualms taking this out in the rain. I have no issues with it being in a dusty or wet environment. This lens can take pretty much whatever you throw at it. It's extremely strong and extremely durable, pretty heavy as a result. If you ever see pro photographers using the white Canon lenses and you really look at them, especially if they're used for sports or nature or photojournalism, you'll see that these lenses tend to get pretty beat up. They're dented and dinged and scratched and scuffed, and they still work. These things last a really long time. So in terms of durability, I would give the Canon a 10 out of 10. You spend your money on this lens and it's gonna last as long as you need it. Probably longer. The Sigma is also all metal, but it has sort of a soft touch matte feel to it. It's a little bit different. It's not better or worse, it's just different than the Canon. It's still all metal except for the rubber rings. It does feel slightly more delicate than the Canon. It definitely feels like it's worth the price. If you buy it and you get this, you're not gonna feel gypped or like you bought a cheap thing. It feels very high quality, but I don't know quite that I would trust it as much in the rain or the snow or an extreme environment as I would the Canon. I don't know that it would survive as many drops as the big heavy Canon lens would. But overall, I've been using this lens since 2012, and even though I try to take very good care of my equipment, it's definitely held up very well for everything that's been thrown at it. So in terms of durability, the Canon definitely edges out the Sigma by just a little bit, but both lenses are really well built, really well made, and I think you'll definitely feel like you got your money's worth from them. Next up, let's talk about what really matters, and that's image quality. I took several shots with both lenses from the same location at 70mm, 100mm, and 200mm at apertures f2.8, f5.6, and f8. Because these are fast lenses, so I think it's important to see how they perform at f2.8. Are they sharp? Are they crisp? Looking at the results for me, I see a little bit more clarity and sharpness in the Canon than I do in the Sigma, but the Sigma is definitely an impressive lens. So in terms of durability and image quality, both lenses are fantastic. Canon slightly edges out Sigma, in my opinion, and based on my very scientific tests. So if these lenses are priced at the same price point, why on earth would you not just go for the Canon lens? Well, the answer to that is this little switch right here. The Sigma lens for the same price as the Canon comes with optical image stabilization. The Canon 70-200 f2.8 lens that has image stabilization costs between $1,800 and $2,000. So really, the Sigma isn't a direct competitor to this lens, it's directly competing with Canon's more expensive image stabilized offering. That means if you're considering buying one of these lenses, it's important to ask yourself how important stabilization is for you. Are you going to be doing mostly still photos? Are you going to be doing videos? Are you going to be doing a combination of both? Realistically, if you're using a telephoto lens, you're not going to be shooting it wide. You're probably going to be zoomed in almost as far as it can go, if not as far as it can go most of the time. That's why you bought the telephoto lens. So I did a few handheld tests at 70, 100, and 200 millimeters between the two lenses. The Sigma with optical image stabilization turned on, and the Canon, of course, without it because it doesn't have it. So based on these very scientific tests, I think you can definitely see a difference in the footage from the Sigma. It is smoother and more stable. The Canon shows much more jitters, especially like micro jitters that you might not otherwise realize you're even making. But truth be told, looking at this footage for me, I don't really see a night and day difference. I do think the image stabilization improves the footage, but it's not like the world's biggest difference. Now, realistically, you're never gonna shoot video handheld with these zoomed in to 200 millimeters. That would just be totally insane. So anytime you're shooting video with these, they're likely gonna be on a tripod or at the very least on a monopod to get stability, regardless of whether or not they have image stabilization. The stabilizer comes into play if you're doing still photography, because when taking still photos, there's a much higher chance that you're going to be running handheld, especially if you're doing sports or events. So in that case, if still photography is your main thing, or if you do quite a bit of still photography, I would say image stabilization is definitely something that you need. So really, what does that mean? If both of these lenses are at the same price point, should you choose the Canon or should you choose the Sigma? You're going to be spending $1,300 to $1,400. What is the best choice? For me, I tend to prefer Canon's branded products just because I trust them, I know that they last, and I know Canon stands behind them with warranty and service. Even though the service can sometimes be a little expensive, a lot expensive. The reason I like Canon so much is because I do like their colors, I do like their features, but also because I teach and coordinate a high school digital media program, and I've been using Canon cameras and lenses for the past 6 or 7 years with high school students. Even when kids try really hard to take care of them, just throughout the course of a school year, the abuse and the use that they get put through is pretty intense, and Canon stands up in a way that I haven't seen other products manage to do. If you're going to be doing a lot of still photos, or you really want the stabilizer, the Sigma is a clear, obvious choice. Sigma lenses are absolutely fantastic. Sigma is one of the only third-party manufacturers that I really like. They do such fantastic work on their lenses, especially the Art series. If you decide that you want a stabilizer, you then need to ask yourself, do you want to pay the $1,350 for the Sigma, or do you want to jump up another $400 or $500 to get the Canon 70 to 200 millimeter 2.8 lens with stabilization? That's basically asking yourself, how much is the Canon name and build quality worth to you in comparison to the Sigma? There is absolutely a difference. The Canon 70 to 200 stabilized lens is pretty famous for its clarity and sharpness and image quality. The build quality is definitely better than this lens. It's a Canon original product, but is that really worth another $400 or $500? Only you can really decide that, along with, your wallet and your bank account. Really what I think that this proves is that Sigma especially is catching up so fast with Canon quality. Their lenses are outstanding. They offer a lot. they're offering you something at this price point that you would have to spend another $400 or $500 for to get with Canon. Truthfully, you can't go wrong, and I would recommend, if you're thinking of buying a more expensive lens, of trying out a lens rental service. There's 1,000 of them online you can Google, where for a relatively low price you can rent pretty expensive lenses for like a week or two. You can play with them, check them out, compare them against each other, and see which one is right for you. I hope that was a helpful comparison between these two lenses that are relatively pricey and seem to be pretty matched in features. Obviously, Canon beats out Sigma in durability. Sigma offers stabilization that Canon doesn't at this price point. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed, please make sure to subscribe to this channel so you get new videos every single week. And let me know if you have any other questions, because I'm always happy to help, or at least admit that I don't know the answer to the question that you're asking. Thanks, I'll see you guys next time. This is the thumbnail. I feel very weird recording this for the thumbnail. Should I hold them like this? Make facial expressions?